Welcome to the Searchable as Reptiles podcast, guys. It's myself, Brian Cusco, and my co-host, Garrett Hartle. As you guys know, we started this podcast because we're just a couple of guys that met each other because of reptiles. It was reptiles that brought us together. Reptiles are the glue that hold us together.
That's it.
In this world. And our fabulous guest today, Mr. Dav Kaufman. The beginning of this, you may be a little like, what's going on here? These guys are talking about religion and God and all these things. It has nothing to do with reptiles, but that's kind of the idea. Yeah, buckle up. It does get very deep. It does get very not introspective, but it's really good. But the first half hour, if you're not into that, it doesn't matter, because the next half hour we talk about all kinds of herping stories and really cool stuff that if you search this as Reptiles, which is, we came with the name Searchable as Reptiles, we're going to talk about whatever we want, but at least it's the reptiles that started the conversation.
The reptile community is the common thread. Yeah. You know what? I'll tell you what is great about having Dav Kaufman is, oh my gosh, does the guy have stories and stuff? And when
a sexy voice,
especially after a little bit of whiskey. But I'll tell you what, he's very professional on his vlog. He's there, he's working, he's doing his thing. And there's this whole Dave that I think a lot of people don't know. And you know what's interesting? I think a lot of times when people see you and me and our friends hanging out on social media, they're always like, well, how do I get into that inner circle? And how do I hang with those guys? And I'll tell you what, this is how you do it. You turn on the podcast and you listen to it here. Because it's just, like you said, us going off about whatever we're going to go off about. And it's been kind of fun. So Dave is actually our second guest now. We had Jesse Johnson from Freedom Breeder, which is a lot of fun. Good buddy of both of ours. Now we've got Dav Kaufman and some more guests to come in this year too. So yeah, I'd say sit back, buckle up if you're driving, if you're cleaning the snake cages, roll your sleeves up, and I don't know, just get ready for a good time. This one is gonna go a little bit all over the place. And I think it's perfect timing too, because we just finished a 3-day brutal herping trip through the Utah desert.
One of the most brutal ever.
So it's great because, it's been a little while since we all got together with the COVID and all this kind of stuff. People aren't traveling as much. And you get all the old, like, hey, what's up? How you doing? Kind of the shallow stuff out of the way. So, I mean, tonight I'm ready to just sit down and listen to what we really think about life, love, the universe, and sea turtle eggs.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Dav Kaufman.
Thanks, guys, for having me. I didn't realize that I was the second guest on this podcast. I am totally honored. A little pissed that I'm not the first, but no, I'm Dav Kaufman. I have a YouTube channel, Dav Kaufman's Reptile Adventures. I have another YouTube channel called Dav Kaufman's Animal Adventures. We've known each other for years now, like years.
Yeah, who knows? We never know how long we've known anyone.
Yeah. So, I do a lot of these podcasts, maybe 1-2 a year. And and a lot of those people,
That's like 2 more than we do.
A lot of those people I'm meeting like right before the podcast. This one is going to be awesome because we are, we've been friends and we've been very close for a long, long time. And I think that I'm really looking forward to getting into this because I don't feel like I need to like sell myself or my YouTube channels or anything that I'm doing.
This
I could
is
just
the place
kind of be
where we
myself.
all come together as reptile professionals to be completely unprofessional.
And that's what I'm looking forward to this. So let's pour some whiskey and get into this.
Dave's smoking shit live.
Going Joe Rogan on this thing.
Cheers.
Hey, cheers.
Cheers.
Get it, whistle pig.
It's been good so far.
It is. This one's good. So what are we starting right in with this one?
My sinuses.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the podcast.
Remember, we're going to do the intro. We'll do the intro after.
Oh, all right.
We talked about that earlier.
Oh, yeah. Well, do you want to talk about the what we're drinking here tonight?
Not really. It's Whistle Pig. It's pretty good.
But we had Whistle Pig when Jesse was on the show.
Right, but that was the farm stock rye. This is the 10-year-old.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to go ahead and say that I do like the farm stock rye better.
Do you?
I do. I've got a bottle of 15-year at home that my parents got me for an early birthday present.
You haven't tried yet?
Not yet. It's not open yet.
I like this one better. I like I said, this is kind of like the Gentleman Jack. If you're familiar with, I think everyone's familiar with Jack Daniels.
It's definitely better than Monkey Shoulder. I'm the drink sponsor, by the way, tonight. For the
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Dave, just so you know, like when we're doing this, like the whole precedent behind this podcast was we knew each other because of Reptiles, and so we just started a podcast so we could just
Yeah, you started at my party.
yeah. The idea was at your YouTube party.
That's
at
correct.
the Tilling
That's
House.
correct. Yeah.
We filmed the idea right there on the.
So it's your fault.
It's my fault.
It's your fault.
Are we? Are we on? Are we?
Maybe.
Are we
Oh, yeah,
doing this? Yeah.
But
We never
the
know.
idea is like we don't necessarily talk reptile. We can talk. We will talk reptiles because reptiles are the glue that hold us together.
Indeed.
But
It's an off-topic.
It's off topic. We just talk about
podcast.
whatever.
So
Yeah,
we
dig it.
want you to be Dave, not, hi guys, I'm Dave Kaufman of Reptile Adventures.
I'm Dave Kaufman, and these are my reptile adventures.
That was pretty good. I bet you guys listening couldn't tell which one was me and which one was Dave, though.
That's
I'm
true.
just that good.
I don't
Let's
know
hear
about
yours,
that.
Brian. Do a Dave.
No, I'm not really.
Do a Dave.
Hi, my name is Dave Kaufman, and these
Sound
are
like
my
fucking Hank Hill.
reptile adventures.
Oh,
What the hell? I'm going to kick your ass.
propane and propane accessories.
Yeah, I think you're a little wild.
I will warn you right now, though, that whiskey makes my voice very sexy.
Oh well,
Sultry.
I like to think it does the same for mine.
Sure.
I do. I like to think that.
It
Sure.
makes me go to sleep, so this is going to be weird for me.
Dave doesn't hardly drink whiskey at all. This is
I hardly drink at all. I'll have a beer like every once in a while.
But we only have these 2 bottles to
I
finish
don't.
tonight.
Well, that's
so.
fine. That's fine. You know, I mean, it's either this or NyQuil. So yeah.
oh, this does work as a good night. It tastes a lot better too.
That's true. It's true. It's true.
NyQuil. Have you got the Corona?
Not yet. Not yet. Not that we know of.
I'm showing no symptoms.
If he does get corona, it's going to be from this trip.
That it is. It is. It's either that or my trip to Wuhan. But you know,
Dude, we should do this a lot.
I agree.
Like just
I agree.
getting together, going on these trips. Like these are.
So I'm actually really excited about this podcast because the 3 of us are fairly accomplished travelers, all in different ways, sometimes to different places, you know what I mean? And sometimes the same. So I'm interested in that, especially from the context, like Dave, you and I have been talking the last couple of days about how little travel we're doing lately. So to have kind of 3, I mean, we are 3 reptile people. Yeah, but I think even more than reptile people, and maybe not more, but it's up there with reptile people. We're all 3, intercultural traveling
Yeah.
people that haven't been traveling.
This is actually both of our first time, Dave and I's first time out of state since we got back from Australia.
Well, yeah. This is the first time I've been on a plane since we got back from Australia.
Which is when the COVID thing hit.
That's
you guys
right.
were out of country when that happened.
That's right. That's right. And you can tell by the 20 or so, 30, maybe 40 pounds that I've put on.
I'm pretty sure those 20 or 30 pounds were put on in the last 4 days.
Right.
And because we are such a politically correct podcast, we won't talk about how Garrett goes out of state like every weekend.
Yeah, but you live right on the, well, I guess you live close enough to the Ohio border that I live to the Wisconsin border, but I've been to Wisconsin. Have you been to Ohio?
I've been to California and back a couple of times.
Yeah, he's been to my house.
But that's not
Yeah.
Ohio, though.
I have been to Ohio. I try. Sorry, Ohio people. I try not to ever stop in Ohio. Gas up right at the entrance because it's cheaper than ours. And
Well,
then
to be fair, your whole side of the country is like the size of our state.
The whole size of his country.
The whole East Coast is about the size of California.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's a little bigger.
Pennsylvania is pretty big.
Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, like, so whenever people hear I'm from Pennsylvania, they're like, "Oh, my brother lives in Philly. Do you know him?" And I'm like, well,
Yeah,
First
yeah,
of
I
all,
do.
that's like 6 hours away.
I do.
There's a mountain range called the Appalachians in the middle of it. Our state straddles both sides.
A mountain makes things feel a lot more far than they are sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Next time somebody says that to you, do you know this guy? He's my friend in Philly. Say, yeah, he owes me money, and he told me you'd pay me.
Yeah. He's my mortal enemy.
I
And
vow
my
to
word.
kill him and everyone he knows.
So that's actually kind of mind-blowing to me that this is your guys' first time out of state in
Yeah.
all that time.
Well, it's only been what?
First time on a plane
Mm.
for me, anyway. I've been to Wisconsin.
Is that a different state
It's
than Minnesota? Kind of.
I don't know. You know, most Minnesotans just kind of tolerate that it's there. But nobody from Wisconsin watches this thing, do they?
Unless you count Brandon Fowler.
Brandon watches this?
He at least
Listens to
well,
it.
I can't promise
Can I just
that.
I'm going to
say,
pretend like
for
Ryan
just a
McVeigh
second-
does. I pretend like Ryan McVeigh does and Erica, but I'm sure they don't.
Well, they're in Illinois, though, see.
They're not.
Yes, they are. They're in Wheeling, Illinois.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You want their address?
But everything else is in Wisconsin.
I mean, this isn't public, is it?
No, it's not. This is private. We're here in our little Airbnb in Utah. It's completely private. The only other people are going to hear about this are these little table napkins that we're talking on.
What happens
Yes.
on the podcast?
You were
stays
going to
on
say
the-
something.
And the FBI that's listening on our phones. No, Wisconsin is a lovely state and full of lovely people. And I actually really like Wisconsin.
I like cheese.
I really do. Hey, cheese, beer, fish.
I like all those things.
Cheese, beer, fish. Yeah.
Beer is
Wisconsin.
It hasn't been that long though, so March. So it's been
I think
5
that's
months.
relative.
5 months, right.
Yeah.
But for us, 5 months sitting around, that's a lifetime.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, that
It's
is a
kind
lifetime.
of relative.
Right, right.
I feel like I'm traveling less, and I've been on, 3 or 4 big trips in that period of
Yeah.
time, and I've been trying not to.
Yeah, right. No, this is, and maybe I'm a little over paranoid about it because I'm really trying to make it through this pandemic without catching this thing. First of all, if I catch this thing, it's going to kill me. Seriously,
You've got a
it
pretty
is.
overactive immune system.
Well, not only that, but I've been a smoker for a long time. That's going to affect me. And I've quit smoking, but yet.
Sorry, go ahead.
I don't know if the vape counts.
No, but seriously, I am a little paranoid about catching this thing, and I am a little paranoid about it. I don't know much about death, but I don't think you can come back from that.
Oh, dang. We're
Guys,
getting straight
do we
into the
know?
religion podcast
Well,
right now.
Garrett was quoting Jesus Christ Superstar earlier. Is something about if you if you die, then you've beat death.
Yeah, to conquer death, you only have to die.
Yeah, that's it.
What else does it have on you? You're done. And if you're Jesus Christ, you can just pop up like a daisy. What now?
Dave,
Bring it!
Dave's not buying it.
I just don't know about any. Well, I do know about all of that, but that's a different podcast altogether.
Probably not. I don't know. It might come out. It might come out.
I just
Anything flies here.
my
You can do
my
politics,
opinions
religion.
on religion would probably offend a lot of people, but
Ooh, we don't worry about offending people here.
Yeah,
That's
I
for
do
sure.
sometimes, but
yeah,
Brian
but
always tells
still,
me
you
to
know
quit.
what? Religion and politics are two of those things that we all have our opinions, we all have our beliefs, and people. Well, that's the problem with religion is that people cling to that. They have a belief is a dangerous thing. To have an idea, to have I think this is how it works. That is much more, I think, less dangerous and much more important because if you say, I believe this, then your door is closed. And any new information comes in, it bounces right off of you. And therefore you don't grow, you don't experience everything that life has to throw at you and offer you. I think that if you have a solid religious belief, then that's a closed door. If you have an idea, I think God is there. I think that this religion, whatever. I think that that's much more important than actually having a dead end. This is how I've been. And not only that, but it's amazing to me that the most religious people that I know are religious in the religion that they were born into. And how convenient is that they were born into the right religion?
Well, it is convenient.
You're right.
If it is the right religion,
exactly. So
But I like where you're going with this. But to play the devil's advocate, you certainly must know that you know something in life.
Well, no. The only thing that we know is that we know nothing. The only thing that's certain is that we know nothing.
I've said that since I was in high school.
Absolutely. So,
This is why I'm so superior to you. I just figured it out. I know everything. You guys don't know anything. Too easy.
No, that is absolutely certain. I've studied world religions quite extensively because I asked myself a question very early on in life, and that was, how much would I know about the religion that I was born into it if I wasn't born into it? And therefore it made me say, okay, well, then how much do I know about this other religion or this other religion or this other religion? And it dawned on me I knew nothing. I knew nothing other than the religion that I was born into. Right. So I began to study all the world religions to try to figure out, why do people believe the things that they do? Why do they believe it so vehemently? And why, where is the point in a person's life that they say, okay, I was born Catholic, but how much do I know about Judaism? And then actually take that step to go study Judaism.
Well, I think there are obviously people that convert from one religion to another.
Of course they do.
That happens all the time. I think it actually happens commonly, because I think children tend to rebel against the things that their parents do, and a lot of times if the parents are very religious and very, practicing, the kids like to bounce, But I also think it depends on the person. When you say like why someone believes, I don't think you can look at one faith and tell me why everyone in that faith believes in that. Because I think some people are maybe going, I don't know, I just did what my parents do. Some people may have had some crazy life experience that causes them to believe a certain way.
So of course, yeah. Absolutely.
Other people might sit down and study things and intellectually come to some kind of conclusion. And then other people might find it as, a tool for them to overcome a difficulty in their life. I mean, there's so many things.
Right.
But it is interesting that religion, to me, I think religion is universal.
I've always found it fascinating. Well, I don't know about universal. There's definitely people that don't have religions, like as far as Christianity or Judaism, or there's some people that don't have a religion. So it's not entirely universal.
But that's usually like a very conscious choice that they've had to make, where like, I will religiously choose not to be religious.
Maybe in America, maybe in the United States, or maybe in first world countries, people make that decision. There's plenty of people in the world that don't live in first world countries.
Well, there's plenty of people who don't think beyond what that religion has told them to think.
Sure.
And
I just like your point about, like, I find it interesting to learn why people believe what they believe.
Right.
And
right.
where that they're coming from with that.
But, here's another thought that I had when I began to realize that, well, wait a minute here. There's Muslims in the world. There's Buddhists in the world. There's Taoists and Hindus. And, well, why is everybody so different? I mean, if there was one right religion, everybody would be practicing it, right? And then it got me to think, well, maybe that's what, maybe all of us having our individual experiences in life. You have an experience that I don't have in my life. You do. We all have these different experiences. No human has the exact same experience throughout their lives. Why is that? And could it be?
That's pretty cool.
It's absolutely cool. But could it be that empathy is more important than love? Because in order for me to take your life experience and not discount it because it is not equal to mine is empathy. And having empathy for somebody else's belief is the key to understanding that person's belief. And that understanding, you can't have love without that understanding. So, if that's the case,
it's kind of it seems like a circle for me. Like
absolutely.
being empathetic comes from a place
right.
of love.
Right. So if that's the case, then perhaps that's what God is. Perhaps God is a collective of every living thing in the universe. When you die, you leave the collective when you're born. You have your life experience as human beings, as individual human beings. You die, you go back to the collective, and your experience that you've had in life, what you've learned, what you've suffered, what you've experienced, you bring back to the collective. Whether you're a human being or a whale shark or a squirrel or an alien on this planet or a life form on that planet, we're all, we see that everything is connected on this planet. Everything. So why isn't everything in the universe connected just simply because we don't have any knowledge, we don't have any evidence that there is that life out there yet? But I believe that once we do find that life out there, we are going to find that it is so incredibly similar to how life works here on Earth. And so that was an idea of mine, is that all these living creatures having their own individual experience, they come from that collective, they go back to that collective, and that collective is God. The problem with that is, in the problem that religion has, is that it all is based upon God being an interactive being. You can petition him with prayer. He answers that prayer. You have a personal relationship with God. I don't think that that's true. I don't think that God is an interactive being. And so is that what God is? Is God the collective energy of every living thing in the universe?
Well, your philosophy is pretty close to what's called universalism. Your love and empathy thought is beautiful, and if it's true, I'm screwed. 'Cause I'm not very empathetic at all. I like the thing about love being an action, and I just have to do stuff.
But can you love without understanding?
No, not very well, but I didn't say I was good at that.
There's unconditional love,
Sure.
Absolutely.
which you can have. You don't have to understand something. You can still give love without completely understanding, which may be the ultimate form of understanding. Is like, just because I don't understand doesn't mean I can't offer it up and come from a place of love for anything or anyone.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true.
It's interesting. You're talking about, there's a few things that I think we struggle with. The one thing that I think is underlying that is like terrible and beautiful at the same time is that eternity is placed on the hearts of men. You know what I mean? That you're thinking about, you're trying to think outside of what you can see and feel and experience. Talking about life on other planets and things like this. And there's this like desire for greatness, immortality, and sometimes immorality.
Yeah,
too.
right.
And but you have. I think it is our impending death and mortality. You're coming back to the coronavirus thing and your fear of that and all that kind of stuff. Death is what makes life so beautiful, because
I absolutely
without the darkness,
agree.
you don't know how to enjoy the light.
I don't fear death. I fear death now. I'm not ready to go yet.
Gotcha.
I still have a lot of things I would like to accomplish. So I don't fear death at all. I've come inches from it.
Yeah.
Repeatedly in my life, inches from it. I don't fear it, but I fear it now. I would like that to come. I'd like to get another decade out of this thing before I go.
Do you think we all go when we're meant to?
No, I don't, because if
You don't think there's a
how do you
overarching will?
No, I mean
that somebody
a 2-year-old on the savannas of Africa that just starved to death. Why was that meant to? Why was that child meant to die then? That doesn't make any. To me,
certainly one of the harder things to understand.
Right.
If it's something to understand. That's one of the more difficult things too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
This is interesting because I was planning to have this type of conversation with Clint. To be honest,
Absolutely. He should actually.
Stealing
We
his
should
thunder,
actually be here.
stealing
Yes.
his thunder.
Clint is.
We'll have to see what we come up with
it's
Clint
good
for
though.
next.
That's kind of the first time
Clint
I've
is
heard
a
it
wealth
put.
of knowledge.
That's kind of the first time I've heard it put just the way you put it. That God is a collective and that we all come and go from it, and then you bring.
I've thought about that for a long time.
You bring what your experiences and knowledge back to the collective so it could become part of it.
I call it the probist theory, that we're all probes of God.
I liked it. I like it.
Yeah. Maybe one day I'll write a Bible about it.
Just make sure that you write it on some kind of official.
No, I've seen what people have done with figureheads in religion.
You know it is funny because I think a lot of people from if you strip your preconceived biases away, which is really hard for a lot of people, probably all people, really. If you could strip all that away, I think there's a lot of really common themes, because the way that I would describe God, first of all, like you said that you didn't think God was. Yeah, or whatever you want to call God, you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll say God. You're saying that this power is not interactive, or not, like you can't be petitioned with prayer, or I would probably disagree with that thing looks like it's gonna fall off the table. Is that as close to the edge as I think it is?
Yeah, that's exciting.
Okay, you guys are scaring me. I thought I was here. Sorry, everybody.
How did that move on its own?
I mean, I feel like a lot of people have some pretty solid experiences of God, with God, life-changing things that don't seem to be, you can't really explain. Like, there's so many people that are martyrs for their faith. You know what I'm saying? And what do you take if somebody was not born into a certain faith? They become a certain way through their life's journey, and then they're willing to die for it at the end. I'm willing to say that person probably experienced something
Possibly.
to convince them of that.
That's half the problem of being alive, is that we want answers, and the way that the human psyche works is that we are constantly looking for black and white answers. There is nothing that is black and white. Nothing is this or that.
I'll say that
you live in the gray area, not the black and white. You don't hang on. You don't live in absolutes, and that's what religion tries to make sense of. It tries to make sense of life in the absolute, and there is no absolute. So,
as I get older, I feel that I'm always allowing knowledge and things, answers to come as they come, and still searching. I'm always looking to learn something new because it makes my life more exciting. Just to I didn't know that, now I do. But to not search so hard and need black and white definitions for everything, and just let these answers come as they come. Because if we don't know, to me, like you're saying, when you go back to the collective, you will all of a sudden know everything. That's like the moment when the full realization comes, like, oh, this is everything that was God in the universe.
You will know what it was like to experience life as a squirrel.
Right. So
do you know what
So if I come back into it slowly, if I allow it to come slowly, then I don't rush through my life so much, like in the search of this need to end it, which is what I think it is when you finally know everything. That's the end.
Right.
You're done.
Right. But there's no possible way that we can know everything.
Not in life.
Right.
But when we go back to the collective and become part of everything again, then it's like that's that entire knowledge.
And who's to say that you can't leave that collective again to have another life? And that could lead back to the I guess theory of reincarnation.
Right.
Or afterlife.
Right.
Yeah, what's fun about this conversation is, like, for people who are listening and don't know us, I think all of us are very different religiously in our background.
Oh,
but
yeah.
But what's so cool, what I hear about, it's almost like as if somebody had handed each one of us a new iPhone for the first time, and we were all Android people, and we had to sit there and figure out this iOS software. And to a certain extent, we're all going to describe our experiences differently. Some of us are going to be happy with it. Some of us are going to be sad.
That's exactly it.
And we're all trying to figure it out. It's got to be intuitive enough that we all kind of sat down, approached it, and figured out to some extent what we can do with it. Because you're talking about, you mentioned this probist theory, that we're all like probes of what is actually God.
Right.
That's really, in its essence, not very different from, like, I would describe us all as like little mirrors of God. You know what I mean? If there is this greater light and love and force and whatever, that each one of us, even better than mirrors, it would almost be like lens filters. You know what I mean? You're letting blue light through. I'm letting warm light through. You're letting cool light through, because each one of us is different. And there is this God that given each of us a little piece of himself to experience the world that he's made a little bit differently. And each of us kind of reflects a slightly different light. And the cool thing is, if we are open-minded enough about it, whether you believe in the same God or not, I can learn about God from an atheist or a starfish or my 2-year-old child, if I'm willing to open my eyes and see what they have, because they're all
that's the understanding,
reflecting a different cast of light of this same thing.
Right.
And life's journey is kind of like, we all start in these different areas, but as we get further and further through life, you're figuring things out. You're getting closer and closer as you get there. And the ideas of absolute truth and all those kinds of things there's so much that you could debate about it if you wanted to go down the whole apologetic, religious trail. But I think it's a lot more fun to find the similarities, because I think in there, if we were all given this iOS software and a new iPhone and allowed to figure it out on our own, and we listen to what each other has learned about this, I can guarantee you that we're all going to have unlocked different features.
That's exactly
of
what
this
I'm talking
software.
about. That's
and
exactly it.
So it's really
So
cool
you
to
have
sit
your
down and listen with
experience
that.
and-
yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
like you said, God was not an interactive being or whatever. I completely disagree based on my life experience where I've seen God interact in my life. You know what I mean? And you could debate that if you want to or whatever. But
What's
but
there to debate?
No,
You've had an experience that,
exactly.
that you know.
So that to me would suggest that he's very active and interactive and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, it's kind of fun to sit down from different viewpoints and listen to each person's
And that's
experience
something
because
we
you're
do
trying to
not
figure
do
it
enough.
out.
Right.
And even when you do have a manual to do it, it's all about the application of something. So, like a lot of different religions will have some kind of written text or teaching that people are trying to follow, but you're trying to apply it in different life situations.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say we're using the Bible, and you have, like if you talk to different Christians, a lot of them have, they'll pick out like, oh, this is my like life verse or a theme for my life or whatever. It's just something that I hang on to. You know what I'm saying? But they all have a different one. You know what I'm saying? Like this piece of wisdom, of knowledge, of teaching or whatever, really helps me get through my little lens filtered, rose colored glasses version of life.
All right. So, what's your favorite passage from the Bible?
Mine's pretty simple. It says, "I lie down and sleep, and I rise again because the Lord sustains me." And what it makes me think is that I'm not in control, and I need to remember that when you lay down and you go to sleep, you lose consciousness and control. Tons of people die in their sleep all the time. And they can't say, no, I'm going to hang on to my life in this moment and go one more day. You can't do that. You're asleep. So when you wake up, how did you wake up? Did you do it on purpose or did it just happen? So instead of this idea of like, I think a lot of people have this idea of like God did some things, started some things, had a world, and then was like, go ahead and give it a spin like a basketball on the finger and see what happens. You know what I mean? My thing is like I would be dead every night without God coming back in and waking me up for that day. And then I have to go find out am I awake this day? If there is intentionality and purpose to my life for today, I should probably try to find it instead of just being an idiot and thinking about myself all day long and reacting to situations as they come. And I think that piece of wisdom, that piece of perspective is what helps me to become a little bit better person as I get older. I'm definitely a better person than I was when I was a kid. For sure. Ask anyone.
Yeah. Me too. I haven't lit anything on fire in a long time.
Oh, that was pretty good. You got anything to add?
I still like to light things on fire.
Yeah. I was not born in the Christian faith.
No. You would like the burning bush story. It was Jewish.
Of
Moses.
I enjoy the burning bush.
Yeah,
from
big-
time to
big-
time.
I've read the Quran from cover to cover. I've read the New Testament from cover to cover. I've read the Old Testament from cover to cover. I've read the Dharma.
Yeah, that's more than most
Yep.
Christians.
Yep.
I'm a religious dunce. I'm here to learn from you gentlemen right now.
Going back to the New Testament, my favorite passage is Proverbs 17:28.
Okay.
Even a fool, when he holds his peace, is counted wise.
Yeah, that is a good one.
Yep.
That is a good one. My football coach used to tell us that one.
Yeah.
He's like, just shut up and look smart.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean?
But I've
I'm
also
doing that right now.
There's actually a really similar one that I think is kind of funny. I believe it's in Proverbs where it's saying, it's better to be silent and have people think that you're stupid
Right.
than to open your mouth and make sure that everyone knows that you're stupid.
Exactly. But I've also studied the Torah quite extensively, and this is what people just they don't see.
To put it in context,
connection.
you're from traditionally from a Jewish background.
I was
right?
born into a Jewish family. Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
So what Jesus was preaching, his Sermon on the Mount, everything, he was a rabbi. He was preaching the Torah.
Mm-hmm.
So the New Testament and everything Jesus said in it, he's preaching the Torah. And so I've studied the Torah, and it's kind of hard for me to explain, but there was a very famous rabbi, Rabbi Akiva, and he said something so profound that it stuck with me my entire life. And as I have an idea about religion. I don't have a belief.
Okay.
And because I have that idea, I will continue to learn and to see things from other people's perspectives. But what Rabbi Akiva said about the Torah, the very book that dictates the life of a Jewish person, is he said that out of all the books of the Torah, it can all be summed down into this one sentence: be a good person for the sake of being a good person. The rest of the Torah is all commentary.
Which is pretty similar
I was
to
like,
what Jesus said.
And he was quoting the Torah.
Yeah.
And when I heard that, when I read that in whatever book it was that I was reading at the time, when I was looking through all this, researching all this, it struck me so profoundly that it had become my life's motto. Just be a good person just for the sake of being a good person.
You're constantly tested on that day after day after day.
Absolutely. And my God, I lose it. But I have the knowledge, the ability, the humanity to take a look at myself and say, dude, that was not cool. Brian has been there during one of those moments.
I've got it on video.
Yes, you do. Yes, you. And immediately I was like, dude, oh my God, Dave, what is happening
Well, at
here?
least you can self-reflect and,
Right.
and recognize.
Yeah.
Some
Right.
people go through completely blundering and imbecilic
Absolutely.
to the effects they're having on the world and everything around them.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Yeah.
And so my simple paraphrase of Jesus' version of that same thing, he said, everyone's asking which of the laws are most important, and things were very legalistic, I guess, back then, very religious, if you will, a legalistic form of it. And he basically was like, you know what? Love God, love people. Everything else hinges on this. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And if you're talking about God, if that's difficult for you to define, you're talking about be good for the sake of being good. If God is good, God is love. You know what I mean? Saying,
But
love goodness,
right.
and love people.
But there is a lot of reward and punishment quotient to religion. If you don't accept Jesus as your Lord of Savior, you will burn in hell. That is the most destructive and cruel thing to believe. That God is love, God loves you, God, forgives you. But if you don't believe this, sorry, buddy.
In my opinion, that's a corruption of man, corrupting God and using it as a way to control people.
That is exactly what I was just going to say.
I was going to say that concept, concept that you just quoted is actually almost cultural. It's not even found anywhere.
Right.
There's nowhere that's like God is punishing you because you didn't like Jesus or something like that. The idea is that there is this, you're saying be good for the sake of being good. So there is some kind of good. And you know what I mean? And if you're running away from that, things are going to get bad for you.
Right.
And you find this everywhere. It's either you reap what you sow, the idea of karma, those kinds of things. I think a lot of people can say, if you and I have talked about this, are self-destructive tendencies. You know what I mean? If you're driving into self-destructive tendencies as hard as you can, you start to mess your life up and get
absolutely.
So it's not necessarily.
You see that every day. You thumb through the Facebook
it's
feed.
Not necessarily punishment. It's just just people knowing what is good and running
my
away
life
from
sucks
it.
and it's everybody else's fault.
That's
always
not taking your own responsibility.
Right.
For
Exactly.
So.
Exactly.
I feel like I'm pretty good at accepting if my life sucks that I've got nobody but myself to rely on to make my life not suck.
What's funny is like I have so many different friends of different everything, different background, different beliefs, different. But the one thing I think that is true of all the people that I really enjoy being around is that they do accept personal responsibility.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I can enjoy other people in small amounts, but if you don't accept personal responsibility for who you are, what you're doing, what you're saying, and those kinds of things, and you think it's somebody else's fault, I'm just like, I'm not really into that.
Well, that's
no time for that. Ain't got no time for that.
That's one of the things that I really can't stand about what people do with religion is they use it as a justification to be a dick. And I can't. They use it as a justification to be mean to people, to be non-understanding of people. They, there's so much that humanity has done with religion in a very negative way.
Well, I'd say that inherently mean people will find whatever it is, religion,
Absolutely.
whiskey, whatever reason they need to be mean, they'll use.
Right. Right.
Religion is a powerful one at times.
Right, absolutely. But that's the commandment: "Thou shalt not use the Lord's name in vain." A lot of people think that has to do with swearing. You can't say shit, fuck. That's using the Lord. That's not what it means. What it means is you shall not use religion as a justification for malevolent deeds.
Putting yourself up on a pedestal. And
right.
Others
That's using the Lord's name in vain. And I see.
And if somebody did that and that was considered a sin, they should be punished. Which is what happens.
Don't know.
Naturally.
We just don't. Well, they're punished because their life, what you put out in the universe is what you get back from it. You put positive things out, you get positive things back.
And you were talking about the idea of an afterlife. I think the completion of the thought is basically you can see the law at work here. Like, yes, bad guys might get away with stuff for a little while, but ultimately it's going to catch up with you.
Absolutely.
And the idea of that is just like it's gonna have even more permanent effects than just when this life ends.
Right.
And like people who do believe in reincarnation, they have their version of this. Like you're gonna come back as a worm, or hey, you were good, so you get to be a tiger, or whatever. So it's just kind of like that stuff has a longer lasting effect than you realize, both on the world around you. You're talking about the interconnectedness of it all, which is cool because we've been running around the Utah desert lately, and you can see how everything is so interconnected.
Everything is connected.
If you flip that board over and you don't replace it, you lose the moisture barrier underneath, and there's no microhabitat for the animals to live, and so on and so forth. Everything depends on everything else, and the next life is going to have something to do with this life.
Right.
They're connected. It's not just like reboot.
Right.
There was a point while we were talking, or while you guys were talking, I was listening. Like I was wondering, is it possible to tie this into herping somehow? And there you go. I didn't even have to ask.
Boom.
There it went.
Drop mic.
Everything. So we were talking about how everything.
I love it. First of all, thank you guys. Yeah.
First of all,
good
stop
talk.
cutting people out.
But wait a minute. So you were saying that everything is connected.
Yeah.
Everything, the circle of life, everything is connected to each other, but more importantly, everything is connected to herping and reptiles.
There's always a jump back.
That's right.
Point.
That's right.
I do appreciate it. We started off that segment, that conversation with you saying, I don't want to talk about religion.
Yeah, right.
And
all of a sudden,
and there's the podcast.
4 hours later.
We're done now.
This is very good whiskey.
So politics? No, I'm just kidding. Let's talk about the
Do
herping we were doing in the
not
desert.
you get me started on politics. I'm going to lose a lot of subscribers.
But how long you talked about religion after saying that you didn't want to talk about it? No, I don't want to start on politics. Let's move to. You did that nice segue to the herping. Let's talk about this herping we've been doing in the Utah desert for the last 3 days and how kind of hard it's been. I think it's been a little difficult one this time around.
Probably the hardest herping trip of my life. Really,
The last 3 days?
Yeah, I think so.
As far
We
as,
worked
how
hard to find little.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
Much effort in, little reward.
Right. 120 degrees, whatever. Maybe
135.
At least. I mean, the hottest place on the planet.
And driest.
And
which seems to be
driest.
More,
It
Right.
was crazy dry.
Right. I went over
right next to the river.
I went over to a cactus to take a leak, and steam came out. I mean, it was just like it just evaporated in the dry air immediately.
Yeah. No, it
But it was hard. It was a hard.
It was pretty crazy.
Yeah, but we found coolness though.
We didn't skunk. Finding the desert tortoises was pretty.
The desert tortoises.
We found 3 endangered desert tortoises, and each of them were different.
Right.
Because we found the little baby that's just out cruising, and then Brian, that was who found it? You found the baby.
I found the baby.
So Dave found. I was the only one that didn't really find anything cool. I found a beetle. That's true. True story.
Caterpillar hunter.
I
What
find
was
those
it? Caterpillar
petroglyphs.
killer? What did we discuss it was?
Caterpillar hunter or killer or something. I don't know. That was you said that.
Yeah. Because I
just
talked to my
repeating it.
entomologist friend.
Oh, that
But yeah,
really
you-
shiny beetle.
The
green
that
one.
thing
Yeah.
is sweet.
So
Gurn
Dave
one.
found the baby tortoise. It was just out and about in a suit, Actually, the one that Brian found was where I would expect to find a tortoise.
Right.
Dave's was like running around the rocky rubble, you know. The one that you found was just her butt hanging out of her.
She was
little
in the
den
process of digging a
under
burrow.
juniper bush.
Right.
Yeah, which
right.
is actually how I usually have found them traditionally.
Right.
And then Clint Laidlaw, who we were also with. I don't know that we've mentioned that or not, but he's
the reason why we're in Utah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So he and his son Owen found one like on the top of a cliff.
On the top of a rock. In the sunshine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing I loved about that
Which
was like,
wasn't it like it was like 11 a.m. right?
Right.
right, which is the exact, because I was taking that picture the day before, that first one that Dave found, that small one, I put it on the rock, taking a picture like, oh yeah, real natural. On a rock in the sunlight at 11 a.m. And then the next one we find in the wild is on a rock in the sunshine at 11 a.m.
It's not just
perfectly
like on a
natural.
rock that goes across a path. I mean, it was like
On its
the
way to
view
the
that
cliff.
it's
Yeah.
where you would build your house if you were Tony Stark. You
That
know what I mean? It was like
that
on
alone
top of a
makes
rocky cliff.
Right. That alone makes me question the nerve endings and how sensitive they are in the plastron of a tortoise.
Just because he was sitting on that.
Can you imagine
frying pan
standing
of rock.
on that rock with your bare feet? You'd stand there.
What is
You'd
a
stand there for
shell?
a
Yeah.
second or so.
Well,
but there's
he's
got to
saying
be.
they got-
But there's
they
got to be
walk.
nerve endings.
Are
I
there?
mean, look at how
Are there
many.
nerve endings in our fingernail? The actual fingernail
Well,
material?
but
I
but
think they can feel their shell.
hang on a second though. But look at how they respond to warm water. They kind of we've all seen the video of them hunkering down with the warm water. They feel that.
Yeah, but water, the shell is somewhat porous, I imagine, just like most things are. Water can permeate most of those pores, I would think. I don't know that there's.
I don't know the
nerve endings
answer
in the shell.
either, but it certainly seems like
we'll have to ask Clint because he'll sit there and tell us.
Their,
Yeah,
their
Clint,
spine
yeah.
is definitely fused to the shell, so there's definitely a connection to the shell. It's pretty
absolutely,
deep.
absolutely. But I've questioned that, and I
But
don't know the
do-
answer, and I'm
they
going to
do
have to
like
look into
getting
it. But
scrubbed down and
Right.
stuff like that. They
that,
itch.
they
itch their
respond
shells.
favorably to that. So there
Yeah.
has to be some sort of nerve ending in the shell.
Maybe
but
it was just luck. Maybe that, to your point of like they don't like spend time in that space. Maybe he was just like, I'm moving. I'm not going to be here long, and we just happened to catch him. In a
Yeah,
spot
could
where he's,
be.
like,
could
on his
be.
way to
He
his
could have been.
followers.
He could have been cruising.
All
and then,
I know is that
sucked in
in
when-
my mind, that is the most badass desert tortoise I've ever seen because he's got like
That's
chomp
right, that's
chew
right, from that
marks
cougar.
on his
Yeah.
shell.
You mean the coyote?
He
Absolute
was
cougar.
huge. Yeah.
You mean- yeah, the coyote bites, right?
It was a cougar.
Right. Cougar roadies.
Cougar roadies.
What was yours? Domestic dog, right?
I thought it was. I mean, it's cool to think it was a wild animal, but who really chews on turtles? It's the dogs. Come
Yeah,
on, people.
That
Put them
last
on a leash.
desert tortoise we found had distinctive puncture marks in the shell.
The reason why I don't think that was a dog is because of the spacing of the two puncture marks. That would have to be a very big dog, and that would have to be a very big coyote, and that's why I suggested cougar.
Yeah, but the tortoise was huge, and the injury was old. So I mean, maybe it was a lot closer when he was little.
Dave also just has a thing for cougars, so
They got a thing for Dave. I've seen it.
Yeah, but at my age, the cougars are in their 70s now.
just like a desert tortoise.
That's right. That's right.
Well, for me, herping is always and always has been defined by the amount of snakes I find. That's just it for me. I mean,
Just snakes, not lizards, not any other herps.
no, I love finding all the other animals that we find, but when I do find a snake,
It's the epitome.
that is the epitome of
Yeah,
herping for
yeah.
me, is to find a snake. And it doesn't matter
I
what
dig it.
kind, as long as it's a snake. Like I find it. And I tell people all the time, I was like, that's the gold star on my day. Find a snake. That's the best way I can try to describe how very much it like makes my life when I find a snake in the wild. I'm like, this.
Why don't
is
you
the
tell us
moment
all
I
about
live
the
for.
snake story from this weekend? Because we did kind of find a snake.
You know what, Brian? My thoughts do run parallel to that. I will have to say, finding the tortoises is awesome. Finding the lizards are awesome. You find a snake, and that is the top of the pyramid. That's the pinnacle.
Yeah, I think that's why. Even as cool as it was to find like the.
I
thorny
think they're
devil
more
stuff, like,
exciting.
they are more exciting. I mean, they're just. I've always loved snakes, and
Yeah.
just finding them in the
I agree.
wild.
I don't know that finding like if we had caught a snake, unless it was something that I'd never seen or like super cool species or individual or whatever. But if we had caught a snake, I think it would be more exciting. But seeing the desert tortoises, I would say is somehow better
I had never seen a
than
tortoise
really
in the
any
wild
snake
ever.
I could imagine.
But
Yeah, that was a bonus, and to find 3 of them was a mega bonus.
Oh yeah, and like I said, so different. But Brian,
Yeah.
tell us the story. Tell us the story.
okay,
Share.
we were at Kurt. We were at Clint's childhood herping spot. It seemed to be his childhood herping, like the place that he had enjoyed herping the most in his youth. Lytle Ranch, that place out in the middle, like BYU owns it, I guess it. And we're cruising around and hoping to find stuff, and Clint found something right away. The first thing he flipped over, he found that lizard, that tear, like right off the bat. He's like, yeah, see, it's a good sign, because somebody had told him since then that, oh no, that spot is no good anymore. Like you don't find.
Oh right,
What
right.
was
right.
that? It was a tiger longtail.
Tiger whiptail.
Tiger whiptail.
And
That ran under Brian's butt.
so I often I've
that
got a
was pretty
theory. I've got
exciting.
all these weird. I build up all these weird almost superstitious things about going about like how I'm gonna find a
So
snake.
do I.
So yeah, I'll
You
leave.
imagine it
I
happening.
imagine how it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Like I know, like I just start thinking if I just like I either it's, and I
Something
get
is
50
calling to me
Yeah,
to
either
that
something's
rock
calling to
right
me, or I
now.
just need to stop thinking about that and just let it happen, like something along those lines. And then so I'd like to also go off, because it also spreads. It's nice having 4 people. You go in your different directions and heightens your chance of finding something, because one person finds something, you just yell for everybody else. And so I was on that current path, split off from the herd, cruising through the spot. It was like, it's shady here. It's really hot out. It's 135, 140 degrees. And so I need to go in the shade, and that's where I'm going to find stuff. So I was walking through, and there's all this fallen tree and leaf litter and debris. I was like, this is great. And I'm like lifting all the logs. I'm just walking along. And that's when I saw that first deer, those deers we saw there, the mule deer. I saw one go hiking along. And in my mind, I was like, the way it hopped and like the noise it made and the way it looked to me, I was like, oh, that's the magic sign. Like, that's the deer. That's the deer. And so I was like,
That deer is the bringer of the
I'm
snakes.
on the right path. So I walked along.
I found a unicorn.
And then I saw it. And then I saw that orange pink color I've never seen on a snake in the wild before, which kind of freaks me out. And I was like, oh, is it this magic? And just like, took off and went under the log right there, which, I mean, we know now, or by the way, what I saw, it was most likely a coach whip based on the descriptions.
Super fast.
Super
Very
fast.
red.
And the
And
coloration.
it probably would have been the only candidate for being out in the middle of the day when it was 110
I was
degrees.
hunting all those lizards on
That's
those
right,
problems. And I
right.
did show you a picture. You said, yep,
Right.
that's it.
Most other
So
snakes that are found out there would not be out there in that
So
kind
it
of
was
heat.
out. I walked by and it's like it had been out, and it's just like I walked up on it and it took off, dove under that log, and I just looked at where it went and I was like, perfect. It's right there under that log. I'm just gonna yell for that snake. I just yelled for you guys as loud as I could, because I wanted you guys to be there for the best moment of the entire trip, which was gonna be to find that snake.
That was your first mistake.
And I guess that was my first mistake. I should have just kept my eyes out. I should have just like ripped that log up immediately and
But you
dove
know what he
after it.
did? He didn't stay under the log.
Right.
So it was in a wooded grove. There was downed leaves all over the place. It actually went underneath the leaf litter, and that's how it got away.
Yeah, that makes perfect
Yep,
sense.
absolutely. Or it found a hole. I
Probably
looked
a
around.
combo
I
of
didn't
both.
see the holes.
Went
Right.
through the leaf litters. Oh,
Right.
hole.
But
You know how
but
like
they
rodents burrow,
Right.
underneath.
right.
the
So
leaf litter.
they're professionals at escape.
Yeah, you were pretty
Honestly,
tore up about
I'm
it.
still. It was yesterday. I'm
Yeah.
still kind of tore about it today. Honestly, like if we don't find a snake in the wild this trip, well, I'll just have to come back to Utah and herp again.
That's exactly what I say every single time that
Do
I
you
go
think it's
herping and
because
don't
of
find
how
what
many
I want.
times
I'll
I
have to
told
come
you
back.
that those were like the coolest snake to catch ever and the most exciting snakes I've ever caught?
That's what made it
So
more
unusual.
And that would have been
compared
my
to other
lifer, so
snakes.
thank you for
Yeah, yeah. You guys didn't really. Yeah, that's okay. Beat me up. I feel like I earned it. I don't beat myself up enough. I
Hey,
need other people to do it for me.
I found a bug, so I mean, it's all right.
But here's what I said in my video. A herp trip is not defined by the reptiles and herps that you find.
Oh, here it comes. I'm gonna write this down.
It's defined by the people you're with.
Oh no, I don't. Believe in that.
I can agree with that.
Absolutely.
I can agree with that. Well, that's
Absolutely.
like as herpers, that is like the thing for us, right? Like to get together with the people that because there are plenty of people we can go out there and do that stuff.
Look at us three.
Well, you-
Pennsylvania, Minnesota, California, formerly Hawaii. Okay? We wouldn't know. I wouldn't know that you exist or you exist. Wouldn't know if Brian and I existed if it wasn't for our common love of reptiles. That is how we know each other. That is how we develop this friendship. That is how we have developed the friendships with 90% of the people in our lives are reptile people, and they're our friends. And we would never know that they existed if it wasn't for a common love of reptiles. So
And that is the premise of this podcast.
absolutely. So it doesn't matter what you find out there. It matters the people that you're with, and that you're sharing a common experience with people that are awesome.
It's the journey.
It's the journey, it's the experience, and the reptiles thus become secondary to the enjoyment of that trip.
I'll concede. At first, I was like, nah, I don't think so. But actually, probably the highlight for me, because I know you guys both pretty well by now, but I have met Clint before, but I've never got to spend time
At Tinley,
with him.
right?
Yeah, we had a conversation about parthenogenesis, and I've talked to him a couple times since.
Gotcha.
But we've never like hung out before, got to know each other a little bit. And that part of the day where we hiked up to the top of that cliff that we thought
right.
we went somewhere that
almost...
Brian is like, no, I went up there and I saw collared lizards. So we're like, oh, we got to go find these collared lizards. And then we went up there. We're like, this is really stinking high. How did Brian get up here so fast?
Did you go all the way to the top?
No,
he didn't even.
Yeah.
He was like on the crest of the bottom of the cliff.
Yeah,
next
which
to the
is
road.
what I said.
Well, we were. Yeah. Okay. So we were.
Yeah.
We had quite the epic journey, Clint and I, just getting to the top, and then there was kind of like this mountaintop experience. No reptiles, anyways.
Because you almost killed Clint.
Yeah. Well, no, that was at the end, and he went his own way, so he would have died of his own accord. But, anyways, yeah, that was fun. But yeah, we didn't see anything. So my point is, we climbed this big mountain and overcame and got the cool views and the nice breeze. And then we found those crazy Indian like petroglyphs or whatever on these rocks and stuff. So we had this whole thing and we were talking and
that I wish I would have climbed up there to see.
Yeah,
they were
looked
actually
cool.
pretty close to the road. Like
Aside from
they were
reptiles,
right above where
anthropology
he
is
fell
my
off
thing.
that cliff and almost died. Sorry, Leisha.
But if I would have known that you were going all the way up there to find reptiles, I would have
not gone because it's too high, too steep.
It was really high.
But here's the thing. So if you have, a bluff like that, not really a bluff, it's more of a, what do they call
High
it
rock
out here? We call
outcrop.
them bluffs in
Almost
Minnesota.
like a mesa up there?
A mesa, yeah, plateau, whatever. There's not a lot of reptiles up there.
Yeah.
And the reason is because they don't have to go up there.
No, the thing was like there was those huge rocks, like those big black rocks that came all the way.
The habitat is great.
That's actually where we were looking, but we had heard, Brian said, "Oh, I went to the top of that." And what he went to the top of is like the area of the cliff where they cut away for the road. We went to the top of the cliff.
You guys were up there. I was kind of impressed when I looked up there and was like,
we're like,
wow, they're at the top.
Yeah, no, I filmed you guys up there. I put my camera on Zoom and I got you guys up there.
I was way down here.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, as a guy who really enjoys going to the top just for the sake of going to the top, I was like, yeah, it's cool, guys up there. Yeah, but it's been a long day.
remember the mountain in Australia?
That's why we did it. We were like, he clearly would have gone to the top. It is Brian Cusco. And we would not, we both said at the top, we were like, I wanted to quit like 10 times, but I'm like, Brian did it, so I have to. Brian's like, I ain't going up there.
Well, remember that plateau?
We both literally said that.
Remember that plateau in Australia that we climbed? We walked down that wash.
When we went up to the, not the cave.
No. So we pulled over at this place, just red cliffs.
When I went way up.
And you went way up, and I stayed, maybe 300 feet.
You went about a third of the way up. Yeah.
The reason why I don't climb those is because, of course, there's reptiles up there, but they don't have to travel that far. And the reason why they don't travel that far is they stay within the first few, let's say, 50 feet, 100 feet of a bluff. Because that's where the water source is. Where that cliff was that we were talking about, there was a river that went through there. That river provides the reptiles with water. It attracts the insects that those lizards are eating. They're not going to stray that far up the cliff, up this bluff.
Oh, totally.
From that, food source. They don't have to expend that kind of energy to get up there. There's not water up there. There's not food up there. That's why I always stayed within the first 50 feet of that bluff in Herp there, because that's where everybody is.
Totally. And to your point, the reason I go up that high, and the reason even that day I go up that high, was I'm sure it would be cool to find a reptile along the way, but I do just really enjoy going to the top. As much as I love waiting for the answers to come to me, kind of cruising along, when it comes to something physical like getting to the top of a mountain, I want to get to the top, just to get to the top and look around and be like, I am on the top.
We knew that about you. That's why we were like, he clearly went to the top.
You know what
he said? He saw.
You know why? You know why he goes up to the top alone?
Why?
Because he goes up there and just goes, I'm on the top of the world. And he doesn't want anybody else to hear it.
I have no doubt.
I actually wrote a song called Sitting on Top of the World. It's a funk jam. I'll play it for you sometime.
Yeah, totally.
I don't agree with he doesn't want other people to hear it.
I do like the solitude up there.
Yeah.
It's lonely at the top, but it is peaceful and quiet.
Yeah. So I think we need to we got in pretty deep in the beginning of this podcast.
We did. I enjoyed it.
I think we need to. Oh, I did too. But I think we need to backpedal a little bit and dive deep in the shallow end for a minute. So I have a question for you guys, if that's all right.
This is a segment we've done on the podcast for our first year of episodes. Is this segment called "Getting Deep in the Shallow End"?
And just so you know, everyone's been suffering through the last 57 minutes of us explaining the universe so that they could hear this.
I am prepared.
So I just want to make sure that don't let those people down. You're welcome, people. Okay, so here it is. If reptiles could talk, which one would tell us the weirdest story about you? I'll go.
Interesting.
Yeah, I figured this one might take a little bit of thinking, so I'll give you a story, unless you have something.
Well, I can tell you for sure it's going to be a snake.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Mine is a snake. All right, so here it is. If a reptile could talk and tell you about their experience meeting Garrett Hartle one time, it would probably be this very large ivory reticulated python that I used to, work with at Prehistoric Pets when I worked there. Ivory retics don't have the best digestive systems sometimes. So the leucistics are
Most of the time, right?
I don't know what the stats are, but I would say 50-50. It's a lot of the time. Leucistics almost always die. Ivories are some
you're right.
so.
I was just thinking leucistic, not Ultra Ivy is the one that has the best chance.
Ultra
right?
ivories are good. Maybe you have I've heard of a couple that had some issues, but that's very rare. The ivories are 50-50, and which is an allelic trait, and then the leucistics. So anyways, what happens with them is they can't digest very good. They get backed up, right? Now this is close to a 20-foot snake. And I know everybody always says that, but if you've ever seen Prehistoric Pets Instagram, you'll believe it, right? So this is a very big snake. And, once every quarter or so, we would have to get up in there and get that stuff out so that she would be okay.
Wait.
Enema.
How? Exactly?
Well, this is the story that the snake would tell you. That she would, other people would take care of her, but when she see me coming from the cage, she'd be like, oh no, it's the proctologist. Here he comes. And, I don't know if it was because I was raised with cattle or horses or anything. I've helped the horses deliver foals and stuff before, and you got to get up in there, and it's fairly active cattle.
You've seen a cow give birth to a foal?
A horse. Foal.
Foal.
Come on, right?
Horse. Foal.
So, have a little more whiskey. You guys keep getting caught up.
This
on the
is
detail.
second.
If
so
I said
yes.
that the cow gave birth to a vole, just roll with it for a while. It's a hard life story.
Easiest
It's meant for
birth
entertaining.
ever.
Yeah.
At this point, you've lost me.
Anyway, so I go up to the ivory retic. We would pull this thing out and basically take a garden hose and stick it up the cloaca, like the vet showed us how to the first time, and we did it all the time. And we'd fill her up like a balloon, and old Garrett would get in there up to about his elbow, sometimes shoulder, up the cloaca of this ivory retic and fumble around up inside her and pull all the poop out. I have got to imagine if all the reptiles were talking to each other about me, it would be like, oh, this guy caught me, or I struck at him and he wasn't afraid. And he reached his arm up my butt to the shoulder. You know what I mean? I think that's the drop mic story. Everyone's like, yeah, I'll never see Garrett the same way again. I hope he doesn't take me out of the cage.
That's their name for you, actually.
Do you have that on video?
No, I'm pretty sure that's not up.
At Prehistoric Pets.
No.
And it wasn't on video.
Yeah, right.
There's a lot of stuff that happens in Prehistoric Pets that they don't take videos of.
Yeah, but something like that.
I mean, just because it's spectacular. Well, actually, to be fair, there very well could be a video of it, but they never make should this one go public?
Right.
Because there was always video of
Right.
just about everything. Yeah.
Sir Garrett.
There was a few
remover
videos
of
I made
clogged
that they pulled
poops.
down immediately. Like, that's not a good idea to show the public.
I'm trying to think of one, but I spent, like all of us have, a lot of time around snakes in my life. So there's one out there for sure that has the most interesting story. I just can't think of which one it is. If the snakes could talk, there's definitely some things they would be like, I don't want to tell those stories here publicly.
That's
You
why I
only
asked
have
the question.
one
This isn't,
hemipede?
hey, what did you tell Dave? Like, no, nobody listens to this. It's fine. This is not public. You can say whatever you want.
Well, I mean, I had a snake in
Plus,
my
we
bedroom.
totally edit it if it gets awkward.
No,
We cut
we've
those
never
parts.
edited this ever. If
Not saying that for
right. No,
we have
sorry.
guests
If you
now.
say something truly embarrassing, we'll edit it out totally. Well, see, here's the thing. I had the same snake live in my bedroom from the age of 7 until I was 23. You can imagine the stories that snake told about. This was in a tank. It could see everything all the time.
So he knew all your personal
Everything.
preferences.
Everything.
So he knew you only had one hemipene.
He knew that. Yeah, that was like one of the first things he might have known. Maybe not the first.
Did he ever touch it?
No, he never touched it. He did bite. He was the first snake.
sure.
He was the first snake to bite me. Bit me right on my nose when I was 7. And even at that age, I remember thinking, well, that was my fault. Because I was playing with him, putting him close to my face. But anyway, any story that's totally embarrassing that you could imagine about yourself that might have happened between the ages of 7 and 23, that's a story that my snake could have told, because there's a lot of embarrassing things that happen in my bedroom between those ages.
He's probably thinking he's never gonna get.
I don't know, Dave. That sounds like a. That
he needs
sounds
to
like
get a
cop-out
female
to
when he
me.
does that.
It's not a cop-out. I mean, which story do you want me to share from that? There's a lot.
I think that
Question is the weirdest story.
I think that my snakes either say this bag of meat is warm, I'm gonna chill out, or this bag of meat is gonna eat me, I'm gonna freak out.
The weirdest story? Okay, this one was just the weirdest story that one of my snakes witnessed in that bedroom. I was actually the first time I was on mushrooms ever, and it was pretty weird, as far as I recall. We had a whole party in the house, and like my parents were out of town, and I was going around turning lights on and off, and we had a bunch of people around, and this wasn't in the bedroom necessarily, but I did end up there eventually. But I thought I could do anything, and I did do a lot of things. I fished for a catfish in the kitchen, and then there was actually a catfish because I had caught one.
I was going to
early
say,
in the
did
summer.
you catch one?
Somebody pulled one out of the freezer. I had my ocean rod out in the kitchen. I was putting the catfish in a bowl of an upside down, cake cover, glass bowl, pouring beer in there with the catfish, stirring it around, chucking the catfish around the kitchen. Frozen dead catfish that I'd caught, earlier in the years I mentioned. There's still a mark on the bottom of my parents' door, a little like edge of the bottom of a beer bottle Heineken, just because somebody was like, people realized they could just suggest things to me and I would do them. And that was one, just chuck the beer. But after everybody left and the psychedelic warfare was over, I was laying in the bedroom listening to, well, there was nothing playing on the radio actually, but if you've ever heard the Rage Against the Machine album of Empire, there's a track on there where it's just all these weird noises, like probably Tom Morello doing some weird like guitar, synthesized stuff, just like, and I was hearing those, laying there stuck, motion. I couldn't move, laying in the dark, completely paralyzed. I could not move at all. It was just like coming back to reality, I guess. I was just like, am I alive? Noises, can't move. Remember, I had Dalmatians. One of them came over and like licked my face, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I feel that." And then my buddy Pat, who was my neighbor across the street, was still there, trying to clean up because he knew that my parents were coming home at some point. But he was like, I don't know, he was done too. But I remember like he turned the light on. That kind of brought me back. I was like, "Oh, light!" And there's Pat in my bedroom, and he was taking things from around the party, beer bottles, mostly empty beer bottles, and putting them into my laundry basket in the bedroom, like just putting them in there, going around finding some of my pipes and putting weed, like whatever weed he could find that because I'd also thrown weed around the room, like everybody smoke, just throwing weed everywhere, just like it's a party here. So there's like little crumbs on the carpet he was picking up and trying to smoke while cleaning. And then like luckily my parents weren't actually coming home that night because his cleaning job was horrible. Like I remember spraying Lysol in the room. And that may not have been the weirdest thing the snake saw, but that was one of the weirdest moments I remember being there, waking up from like the Rage Against the Machine, dark paralyzation to Pat trying to smoke crumbs of weed off my floor while putting beer bottles in my hamper with clothes in there too. It wasn't like there wasn't anything else. There were clothes in there, and he's just like shoving them under the clothes and spraying Lysol and trying to be a good friend. It's pretty weird.
Yeah.
It felt pretty weird. It was a weird one.
Okay, Dave, ball's in your court.
I always wonder what snakes think when I probe them. Like, there's some that just absolutely will not sit still and they freak out. And then there's some that just sit there like they like it.
Oh.
And I always just kind of makes me wonder
You're only
about
7
that.
scales deep. You got 4 more to go,
That's
buddy.
right,
A little more lube, please.
How much are those males actually clenching it up? And it's like, that's a female. Yeah. And how many females are like, really? That's all the deeper you're going to go? This is 3.
This is why the cougars love Dave.
No, but seriously, I always wonder what they're thinking, because that's such a
Invasive. You would think.
it's invasive, and it is such a foreign experience for a snake to experience that.
I mean, basically, you can imagine if our junk inverted.
That's right.
into our
That's
body,
right.
And you stick some piece of metal.
Yeah.
It's like,
You got a
slide that
pocket
in
down
and see
there?
how
Let's
deep
see
it
there.
goes.
Did you just say you could imagine that? Because I have a hard time imagining that.
I've got a good imagination, buddy.
Oh, man.
Hey, I don't think there's a guy on the planet that doesn't wish that we could invert these things.
What?
Dude, hot summer day. Hot summer day, you
Found
said,
one.
yeah. Are you kidding me? You've like on a hot summer day when those things are hanging down past your knees, you've never sat on a metal chair?
It would be convenient to be able
I
to
don't
tuck
even
it
know
away
what
for
you're-
certain
I'm
experiences.
saying, right? Right?
It really would.
I've definitely never thought about this before.
Well, snakes do it all every day of their lives.
Constantly tripping over mine.
He's such a dick. Yeah, no, it would. I can think of all kinds of times when it would be just so convenient to just tuck it away. Just for,
Absolutely. I mean, every woman out there watching this podcast right now is like, I knew it. I knew it.
yeah, but I mean, I do wake up every day of my life and thank the good Lord that I was born a male because of all the things I've witnessed with females.
Mostly
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, but that tuck away thing, that not having that thing down there getting in the way is, in the times that you don't want it to get in the way. Yeah.
With what
One argument against it, I guess.
Seriously, what women have had to endure, dude, we are the weaker
even
sex.
with each others,
Right.
The women's with each others.
I have never known a man, any man, that is as strong as a woman, ever.
Well, hold
Like
on.
maybe, whatever.
Yeah, I was
but
gonna say, that depends on your definition.
Women, geez,
I'm
they
gonna disagree. I've met some
they
weak
got the
women.
short end of the stick, not just metaphorically.
Yeah, I've met some weak women and some strong. I've met both. To me, as far as strength of a person, regardless of physically, men do have an
But
advantage,
the
of course.
crap that society has made women endure, it's fucking ridiculous. This year, 2020 is 100-year anniversary of women's suffrage. 104 years ago, women could not vote in the presidential election.
I still can't.
That's ridiculous. So that's, yeah.
I knew you were such a...
Yeah. No, I don't. That's a whole nother topic because, women have not had a fair shake.
Well, it's for the longest
just
time.
have not.
It's been might makes right.
Right. Absolutely.
What's funny is when you actually realize it is when you have to like speak on behalf of something that's happening or something that comes to your awareness. We've actually talked about it on the podcast before, so I don't want to repeat the story, but like Kimberly works for me, and somebody was writing.
Is he repeating the story right after he said he wasn't going to?
No, I'm just saying.
No, it's Garrett. That's what we love about him.
I'm briefly. Did you ever hear this story?
I don't know. Maybe.
Okay,
I'm
so
not
the short
really
end of the
paying attention
story
right
is
now.
some guy was being creepy and sexual to her on my business account, and saying all kinds of things to her. And she screenshot it and she said, "Can you please finish the conversation with this guy? I just can't anymore." And I was like, I'm looking at the stuff that the guy's saying to her, and she's like, "Please stop, please stop, please stop." He keeps going. And I was like, this is ridiculous. So I wrote back to him and I was like, "Hi, it's Garrett now." You know what I mean? And basically said something like, you need to wise up. You need to learn how to treat women well. You're not welcome to buy any of our snakes anymore. And then I screenshot my response to him, and I screenshot the creepy thing that he said to Kimberly, and then I put it on on social media blast. I don't think that I believe I did blank his name out because
See, I don't think you should do that.
did I?
No,
Do
you
remember? I didn't.
No,
Okay,
good.
No, I don't mind not blanking the name. I think people do need to call him out, and I called him out there. But the idea was not necessarily like expose him to the world and say, "Hey, you guys." You're right. I didn't, because I remember he said something about feet, and a bunch of guys were like texting a picture of their feet for a while after that to punish him. But no, the big thing was.
If he's got a foot fetish, it went the wrong way.
Look at the bunion on that one.
Exactly. But no, my point was the response was the interesting part to me, because I just posted it to blast the guy. And I said something about like, guys, don't be this guy. And by the way, if you talk to
I think I remember that actually.
if you talk to my employees like this, you're poking the bear. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And the response was tons and tons of comments of women saying, I deal with this all the time. I deal with this all the time.
Right.
And then even my other female employees are like, you know what? It seems like it's a big deal to you. And yes, we're glad that that a guy would stand up to a guy and say, this isn't right. And you know what I mean? Especially somebody that because obviously this guy, he was super excited about getting his first snake from us. So we're obviously someone that he respects. And then we came and said, your actions are not respectable. So hopefully it gives him something to think about.
It's an endless, timeless. I mean, as far as human history has gone on, men are dicks, and we're just trying to find ways to allow women to think that it's okay to violate them.
But that's what it is. But that's exactly what it is, because men treat women the way that they fantasize women treating them, and the disconnect is that women don't appreciate that, and certain men cannot see past that.
I think we need a woman for this conversation.
I think we do. I think we do. But I've asked a lot.
I feel like we're getting in touch with our feminine side.
We are
tucking it away.
Yes, but I've asked tons of my female friends. Have you ever been excited or reciprocated or felt anything other than that gross out factor when you receive an unsolicited dick pic? Not one person, not surprisingly, has said, oh yeah, some guy I started talking to 5 minutes ago on the internet sent me a dick pic, and oh my God, he sounds dreamy. I want to get with this guy. I want to go ring shopping with this man. No, not one person. And so I don't understand where that comes from, where certain men think that if they send a woman an unsolicited dick pic, that it is going to have a positive response.
Maybe you're just an absolute moron around women, which I think all of us were at one point. Some people just are hard of hearing. I'm not don't get me wrong, I'm not defending the unsolicited dick pic, but my main point is like in this example with Kimberly, she's like, please stop, and he kept going, please stop, kept going. I don't want to talk about
the first time you say stop.
You just stop.
You stop.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I don't even need to be told stop. I can just feel it. I can feel that one.
That's your superpower. You can feel the creep.
Yep.
My spidey senses are picking up a creep out.
I wish I wasn't here right now. No place like home. No place like home.
That's so funny.
It's a good time.
It is.
Oh, this is a nice trip. I feel pretty good right now as far as
It's the whistle pig.
Well, the whistle pig is like the set the mood or whatever. But I mean, so like you guys were here a little bit longer than I was. I wasn't able to get out here for a while. I had stuff I had to wrap up.
A day and a half.
Yeah, but I mean, so for me, it was like, hurry up, do a bunch of stuff, jump on a plane, run to Utah, rent a car, and then drive 4 hours.
Right.
Okay, I'm here. You know what I mean? So, and then it was like, stay up late, get up early, herp, sun. You know
there
what
is
I mean?
no doubt that the past 3 days have been an exhausting 3 days.
We've been going for it. I've been impressed with us.
So now
I've been impressed with me.
So now, we didn't have
I'm
any,
usually the one that craps out.
Right.
Yeah, we didn't have anyone say I don't
Yeah.
want to today or let's quit early or anything. But yeah, so no, I think that was really good. And then we drove all the way back up here, which is 3-4 hours. I've already shot 2 episodes for my YouTube channel, the one with Richard and then the one of all of us herping in the desert. So that was great. And and now we're here. We're chilling in an Airbnb and. Yeah,
and bonus, we're gonna go to Dan and Colette Sutherland's place.
Yeah,
but that's what I'm saying.
We have. Yeah, I mean, I think I have
this
like
is the halfway. This is the official
5 more
halfway.
episodes left to shoot.
Dave's. You've filmed a lot of episodes.
I think I've filmed 4 so far on this trip.
Yeah, but you're like a professional YouTuber. I'm just like some guy that's like, I should probably make something out of this. People like to see it sometimes. But no, my point is like we did the outside part of the trip. We're at the halfway point. Anything after this though, like I mean, the trip was great. We found no reptiles. It was hot and
we found reptiles.
Stuff.
We found
I
reptiles.
Mean, we found the stuff that is, there's the common stuff, and then there's the stuff that if it's 40 degrees out, they're going to be out. And that's the stuff that we found.
Right, yeah.
We found the ultra common stuff. And that is the beauty of it, because if we drove all the way down to that desert and didn't even see a side-blotched lizard, that would be a travesty.
That's how you knew.
But we
that
saw
our
some.
trip
We
was
saw
tough.
some
We're-
pretty
we're
cool stuff.
Taking time to catch
Right.
the
Right.
whiptail and the side
We
blotched
may
and-
The
or
toad?
may have not
toad,
seen
yeah.
a chuckwalla. We haven't really determined
Yeah,
that yet.
yeah.
Which was kind
I'm
of
at
the purpose for the trip.
90%.
I'm pretty sure
was a
that was
chuckwalla,
huge.
But if you don't know, then
Right.
did you really get to
Right.
experience a
Right,
chuckwalla?
right,
You're like, I'm
We
90%
zoom in on that
sure.
4K footage, man. We'll find out.
I will.
That's why
when
I'm
I get back to the
90%.
studio, I will
I
find
zoomed
out if
in on
that's.
mine. I think it is.
Yeah,
I think it is.
It could be. It was way too big to be a Scalopterus.
I need to show you the head shape of one because you said you got a good. So I think if you saw that, you would do it. But at any rate, yeah, I think it was good. I think it was a great trip, and we still have a lot to go.
Yeah, and we're here at a very bad time of year. August is not.
But this is my point. Like it was
Yeah.
a lot stacked against. It was a lot.
Right.
I mean, I almost didn't come just because I have so much work to do, and when I get back. The hard thing for me is I'm gone for a week. I work just stacks up and waits for me back at home.
I mean, I have a to-do list 1,000,000 miles, literally 93 million miles. The end of my to-do list touches the sun,
There you go.
and I have to accomplish it all on the day that I get back, or I'll be like overwhelmed.
How
That
much
does
of
sound
that
like
involves Red Redemption or whatever that's
Red
called?
Dead.
That would be so on
Video
a
game.
93 million mile to-do list. It has about 94 million items. Playing Red Dead Redemption for 8 hours a day is item 3 through 9,452.
The truth. I love to hear it.
No, you know what's funny about that is that I love playing video games, but I just so very rarely ever. I haven't turned on my Xbox since December, and it's August. And that is my treat. But I mentioned earlier that I would like to get a decade more out of this life, and I hope I do. What people don't know is that my grandfather died when he was 41. My father died when he was 58. My uncle died when he was 58. My grandfather on my mother's side, he made it all the way to 62, I think. Longevity is not a thing we have in our gene pool. And so I would like to get a decade more. And in that decade, I want to accomplish so much because one of my, and I don't know where I got this from, but it's always been with me. We were talking about life after death. The only way that we are guaranteed life after death is by the accomplishments that we do in our lifetime and how long after we die those are remembered. You only live as long as the last person who remembers you.
Pretty sure that was a Disney movie or DreamWorks.
Who did DreamWorks? I didn't sell that to DreamWorks.
Oh, okay.
Fucking
Yeah, they already did.
plagiarists. But seriously,
Yeah, that's true.
I would like to prove to the future that Dave Kaufman was once on this planet.
We've got a ton of videos. That's going to help a lot.
Videos,
Unless we have
my
an electromagnetic
books,
pulse that
right?
wipes
My
out all
movies,
electronic.
right? I mean, I think that I have accomplished proving to the future world that I was here one day. But there's so much left that I want to do, and that's why I'm kind of paranoid about the corona thing. I'm not paranoid about getting H1N1. I'm not paranoid about this thing is a killer, and because of my particular, mental, yeah, well that too, but because of my particular physical, anomaly, that thing's gonna fuck me up if I ever get it. And so, yeah, the point is, if I can remember what the point is. But anyway, there's so much
Live
more
forever.
that I want to accomplish before it's my time to check out. And therefore, if I'm bored, if I have downtime, my brain will go, stop it, go accomplish something. If you have time to watch TV, if you have time to play video games, you have time to go write another page in your new book. You have time to, go do this. You have time, and I have to I have to mentally wrestle with myself to take a break. I have to mentally wrestle with myself to give myself permission to sit and watch an episode of this or a movie or, say between 3 and 4 p.m. That's my Red Dead Redemption time. But yeah, it's an issue.
What would you say is the biggest thing that you had to accomplish?
My first movie. Absolutely my first movie. Because I lived in absolute poverty trying to make my first movie. I remember once I was at a friend's gig at a bar, and everybody was drinking, whatever. I sat there with a glass of water because I literally did not have $2 to go buy myself a Coke. Literally. Not in the bank account, not in spare change in my car.
You accomplished that already.
Right.
Oh no, I'm saying what would so you're talking about how much life you have left, and you have so much
what do
more.
I want to accomplish within that life that I have left?
If I said,
oh, I see. I
Dave,
thought you meant
grant,
what so far.
I mean, if I were to grant you one accomplishment, I am God now, and I give you time and ability to accomplish.
It doesn't work that way because as soon as I accomplish it, something else will fill that place.
So it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
But if you had to accomplish one thing in the next decade that you've given yourself, what would it be?
It's coming in 2 months, my new novel. And I believe, don't quote me on it, but I believe it's going to be the last novel I write. And the only reason why I'm saying that is because they're difficult to write. They're time-consuming to write. But this novel that is coming out in a couple of months is extremely important to me. But I'm also working on a book about all the stories behind my videos that, when I went to New Caledonia and, I almost died on the beach. That didn't appear in my videos. People don't know that story. So all those behind-the-scenes stories.
Will you share that story here?
No. So all those stories that, people don't know about, that happened.
Podcast over.
Yeah.
It's over. You're fired.
But I'm working on that book as well.
Let's get
so
Clint for next month.
Yeah, we'll get Clint. Maybe Clint will share the story that we really want to hear.
I will give a little hint. I was bit by an extremely deadly animal. And I thought that I was going to die, and I actually was sitting there on the beach in New Caledonia.
Prepared.
Saying, well, okay, you know what? You're dying doing something that you loved. You're in a beautiful place. You're about to die on a beautiful tropical beach in the South Pacific. Dude, well done.
I envy you.
Go to sleep now.
You don't want to share it because you want people to read it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'll talk about it in the book, but the point is that what bit me should have killed me in 20 minutes, and after about 10 minutes, I got bored waiting to die, and so I
better go accomplish something.
And so right. So I started writing a new book in the sand. No, but I started taking a walk. I was watching the gray reef shark swim. I was thinking, okay, if I'm not going to die on the beach and have my bloated body in the sun. I'm going to jump in the water. I'm going to feed myself to the sharks. And
that's very nice of you.
But 20 minutes later, I was like, I don't feel really any different than
should have been dead by now.
I think I'll go for a walk. I feel better.
Well, thanks for giving us a hint of that story.
So, but that's just there's so many stories about how I literally should not have made it out of these situations alive, and I did, obviously, because I'm here and I'm not a ghost. But I'm writing a tell-all book about all of those things that happened that you don't see, in the videos, and I'm on page 83 right now, and I've got 400 more pages to go. So I'm gonna have to go out and really edit this down.
It'll be all the good stuff.
But it's going to be a tell-all book.
So what is the book going to be called?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
Maybe something
what
lame,
about
like
Kaufman's
stories.
Tell-all adventures.
Right.
What about the novel?
I'm sure it'll be called Reptile Adventures, Tales Behind the Videos, something. I don't know.
What about the novel?
Elysium Coast.
Elysium Coast.
Elysium Coast. So that is a novel that I wrote years ago based on a true story of a friend of mine and his wife who were the only protectors of a sea turtle research facility and a beach in Costa Rica where all the thousands of sea turtles come ashore to nest. And they were the only ones standing in the way of the complete annihilation of those turtles from the poachers that were, stealing all the eggs. And then I went down to just basically visit it. And this is, I've been vlogging. I've been reptile vlogging for a decade before YouTube was ever invented, ever thought of. I've been reptile vlogging before the internet. I just dated myself. But and I'm gonna do a video on my reaction to those old videos. But I went down there to volunteer on this, and it was beautiful. And then when the researchers were contacting me and saying, everything that these poachers were doing, they even burnt down the research facility, and this whole political mess that happened because they were selling the eggs to the Asian markets as aphrodisiacs. And the olive ridley sea turtle almost went extinct, and nobody knows this. And so when I learned of their troubles, I raised a lot of money, brought a bunch of power tools down, and I went down to go rebuild the research facility and further protect these sea turtles. And the poachers weren't quite done with us, and they trapped us in the ruins of the research center. They were shooting their guns at us. They were, charging at us with their machetes. I was armed with a step shovel. And that's another point where I was like, dude, this is it. This is where you're checking out. And so I wrote a novel based on that experience. I didn't want to write it nonfiction because I felt that if I wrote it nonfiction and basically explained in detail everything that happened, I was not going to reach the peripheral. I wasn't going to reach that peripheral audience outside of the reptile world and outside of the conservation community. But if I wrote a novel based on what it was, then I reach a whole, wider audience than I would if I would have made it, nonfiction. And so that's a novel that's at the printers right now.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
Sweet, dude. Well, Dave, we're kind of at the spot where we usually wind down on these things, but I just want to thank you, man, for always inviting me along on these things. Like, since we've become friends, brother. Like your invitations have led me on the best herping trips I've ever been on my entire life.
Love it.
And
love it.
I really appreciate that fact. And like I know I make your life miserable sometimes on these trips.
No, you don't though. You don't, and that's the thing. It's like, I don't know, ever since you and I started actually talking to each other and seeing all the stuff that we have in common and how we just play off of each other and how we are just constantly making each other laugh, dude, I knew we were brothers like early on. And Garrett, I like you too.
Thanks, guys. It's okay. I like myself more than anyone deserves to. I don't need anyone else to like me. It's fine.
To be fair, I like Garrett more than you, David. So.
But that's what I was saying earlier. We're
you
brothers.
You like me more than Dave does?
Yeah.
Or you like me more than you like Dave?
We're brothers because of reptiles.
Yeah.
We wouldn't know each other if it wasn't for him. And that's just such an awesome thing.
That's
such an awesome thing.
Fact.
Absolutely.